Hello everyone, great to have you on the channel here of MeteoMark Weather. We have a lot to talk about, especially as we get into next week, into the following week. As we head through the Labor Day weekend into that first part of September, we're watching a few areas that are concerning for tropics here, especially the Gulf of Mexico, Northwest Caribbean, and off the southeast coast, as well as out here into the MDR and the Cape Verde region. So let's get into it. Well, we're going to start off with the European model here, and then we'll transition over to the GFS. But here's what we got going on. I know many of you said in Florida you definitely don't need the rain, and unfortunately, it looks like this is the pattern we're stuck in here. So that's one of the things we're going to be watching for the tropics here, this area, as well as this area out here, obviously in the MDR, out by the Cape Verde here. High pressure continuing across the north central Atlantic is going to keep those tropical waves moving on a westerly track here. So as we head through the 23rd here, you can kind of see what's going on. There's a lot of tropical moisture bottled up here from the north central Caribbean all the way through Florida, and just off the southeast coast there's going to be a big high pressure here to the north, so it's going to be really close for you in the Outer Banks. But as you can see, things are starting to ramp up a little bit here. Now there's not expected to be anything, intense or development these next 5 to 6 days here. You can see quite a bit in the way of wave action as you get here into the Northwest Caribbean. That's going to be one hot spot we're going to be watching. Definitely watching the intertropical convergence zone out here and Florida as well. A lot of tropical moisture as we continue to go in time here, the 25th into the 26th. Central America really starts to get in on the act. But there's a couple things I want to bring to your attention here. Look at this strong wave now showing up. This is on the 26th. We also have a lot of wave and tropical moisture here from Trinidad, Tobago, all the way up towards the Virgin Islands and then westward here towards Central America. You can still see we're actually pinwheeling some rainfall up here towards the Texas coastline as well. So we're going to get the Gulf Coast states into the act here. Now, as we continue in time, the 27th into the 28th, you can see what's happening here. This big wave definitely bears watching. If it were to develop into something, it wouldn't happen until after the National Hurricane Center timeline, which is about 7 days. So you're looking out here towards, say, the 27th. Still doesn't look like anything of development, but it is a strong wave, and we're going to start lining these waves up here. So here's our big strong wave. Here's one moving through the Lesser Antilles, one just east of Jamaica towards the Dominican Republic and Haiti, and then a big wave here into the Northwest Caribbean. Look at Florida there, continuing to get rain. Look at that over into eastern Texas as well. Tropical moisture pinwheeling to the north. Now as we continue in time towards the 28th into the 20th, look at this. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about. This is where the hurricane center, or the hurricane season, I should say, really gets rocking and rolling here. This is where we have some very strong tropical wave action, some positive signals, so to speak. I'll just zoom out just a tad here so you can get a better perspective. There it is. So yeah, there is a lot of tropical wave action that we're going to need to watch. Look at how far to the south some of these are. This is a little puzzling. Going to have to see if that holds true, but there's some big waves here coming off the coast. And look at this. Yeah, this is a lot of moisture. By this point, it looks like northern Florida starts to dry out a little bit, thankfully, towards the 30th, but don't count on that for too long. Here's the rest of the 30th. Into the 31st. Look what we got going on here. There is some big, strong wave action out here. And this is much stronger than the other day. When I did my update the other day, look at there's even some development potential along this stalled out frontal boundary just north of Bermuda. So at this point, it's a waiting game. It's a watching and waiting game. And as we head through the 31st into the... Look at this. I just want to bring your attention. Look what's going on here in Africa. This is where these waves come from. And look how strong they're getting already. They're not even out over the open Atlantic. So this, to me, is a sign that September is going to be a much different month than August here. Now, let's just progress this out in time. We just have a few more frames here. There it is. September 1st, 8 a.m. That is the end of the European model. And as you can see, we got a lot of action out here. Some of these could be trying to develop by this point. And look at the Gulf through the Caribbean here. This is just one big mess of moisture. And before we continue with the GFS model here momentarily, if you like this video, you made it this far, smash that like button. It really does help, everyone. Question or comment down below. I love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button, bell notification button, so you're alerted when I come out with any one of my future weather updates. Let's continue. All right, so for the GFS model here, let's take a look at that compare to the European model. You can see a lot of tropical moisture here across parts of the Bahamas into the Florida region. And look at this. We got some major tropical wave action out here. Let's just zoom in on that. That's some intense waves. They are showing up just like they were on the European model as well. And as you can see, we can track these coming all the way across Africa here. This is really interesting to see where our weather is going to be coming from in the tropics. Now look at this. We have a stalled frontal boundary here. You know it across Florida. There it is off the Cape Verde Islands here. We are watching some strong tropical wave action. So let's just put this into motion and we'll continue through the 26th into the 27th. You can see we have some flare-ups here into the Gulf. This is looking interesting, as so is this. So we have a lot to watch here as these waves propagate off the coast. We have that Saharan dust weakening as we continue to go out here in time. But we also have the possibility here of this surge of tropical moisture that's going to continue to head in the direction of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, it looks like around this time, Florida will be getting a little bit of a break here, which is some really positive news. But watch this. The Intertropical Convergence Zone, September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Here's the 2nd. We just start lining up these waves. And here we go. This is going to be a busy time. We might even have a storm up here by the Azores, but look at here through Africa. We're looking at another big, strong tropical wave through here. So things are getting interesting. We have some storminess along the East Coast. We have a very strong tropical wave here across the North Central Caribbean. So if you are in the Caribbean, watch out. Stay tuned. I'll be having plenty of updates as we head closer to September here, but look at this. Yeah, the tropics are really beginning to light up here. We got this system in the Northwest Caribbean, Lesser Antilles, way out here off the Cape Verde Islands here. We are going to be socked in with plenty of tropical systems here, it looks like. The positive signals continue. As we head through the 5th here, that is our last frame. Let's just get our last frame here. You can see we could be in for some trouble as we head into that first week of September. So for those sea surface temperatures, yeah, we have a lot of activity here, you know, as of recently, especially around Bermuda. That upwelled the water, so that's good news for you. The Gulf is just bathwater. It's just rapidly warming up. The Caribbean as well. And look at the MDR, especially even out towards the Cape Verdes here. We are warming back up. That's signifying this dust is retreating and lightening up. And look at this across the Azores, just boiling for this time of year. Dry air analysis here, thanks to Tropical Tidbits. And as we put this into motion here, starting off with the GFS, you can see what's going on here. We have that dust retreating to the northeast. That's confirmation there. Some very strong signals here on the GFS as well, with some very powerful tropical waves. Here's our high pressure systems to the north. Lots of moisture, unfortunately, affecting Florida here, and that's going to be heading northwestward towards Texas as well. So as we head throughout the rest of the 26th, the 27th, and this will take us to the 28th. I don't believe the rest of it's loaded quite yet. Here's some big, strong tropical wave action out here on the GFS, and that surge of tropical moisture. Could we actually have a little bit of dry air towards August 28th? You might get a little break here around Florida, but there's our next surge of tropical moisture across the Caribbean. So if we take a look at our European run here, look at this. So there's some big dry air, but most of this is fizzling dust. A lot of the dust is moving and fizzled up here towards the northeast Atlantic. So we're going to continue to watch this, but there's that big, strong tropical wave coming off the Cape Verde region here, just like you saw on the GFS model. As we continue in time, you can start to see the pattern here. The dust is lifting well to the north here. Look at Florida does start to dry out in the mid layers here towards the 28th, just like I showed you on the GFS. That pivots towards the north central Gulf. But look at, we start to have some potential initializing of some of these low pressure systems, and we got some really strong tropical waves, even inland here, coming off the coast of Africa, and we're just going to start lining them up here towards September 1st. This is really menacing looking out here. And look at the Gulf and Caribbean just socked in with plenty of moisture. It looks like the Northeast here is pretty well insulated with a lot of dry air behind this frontal boundary. All right, the CanZips model here for the rest of August. Yeah, there it is, that positive anomaly from the MDR to the Caribbean, Eastern Gulf, and then up through the mid-Atlantic here. Now, as we continue through September, there it is. This is kind of signifying, you know, the path of where some of these storms could. And look at the fish storms, though. That's some good news, although the Azores are up here, so we don't want them to get hit either. But here it is, the Gulf, Caribbean, out by the Cape Verdes here, and troubling, you know, this run showing a lot more moisture heading north up the East Coast. We'll have to keep an eye on that. October here, drying out across the northern part of the Gulf, but look at this. We're just consolidating through the Caribbean, and this is a bit troubling as well up the U.S. East Coast towards the mid-Atlantic. But November, yeah, we could still be talking about named storms here across the Atlantic and the Southern Caribbean. And going over to the CFS Weekly here to round out our week here, right around Florida and the Cape Verde Islands and through the Caribbean Islands. That's where we're going to see a lot of tropical moisture and wave action. This consolidates next week across the Gulf and off the southeast coast, Caribbean Islands, and out through the MDR. And as we watch through, this gets us into the first part of September, all the way through September 12th, so right around the 6th through the 12th. You don't see much change here right through Florida, unfortunately. The Caribbean, the MDR continue to be the hot spots, the hurricane highway, so to speak. And as we continue through mid to late September, you can see there is some glimmers of hope later in September. Unfortunately, Florida, you're still in the crosshairs here, so this could be a very active time for you. But the MDR is starting to look a little less menacing out here until we get to about the first week of, say, October. So the Gulf through the Florida and over towards the Bahamas continue to look awful. And the MDR out here starting to dry out. That's some great news. And heading in here into the Caribbean, what is going on to all my Caribbean and Central American viewers here? It's great to cover you here with the precipitation amounts. Jamaica will start to get some rain showers here in Saturday, and Friday night and Saturday. So watch out. You could have some gully washers here into Central America as well. And look at this as we head through all next week. This takes us all the way through September 1st here. Look at this. Yeah, we could be looking at a lot of rainfall here, even around Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, 60 to 100 millimeters. That'll net you up towards 1.5 inches, close to 3.5 inches. In Central America, many of these countries were breaking the 100 millimeter barrier up towards 3.5 to 4 inches. And look at the Bahamas up here. You'll be in the 60 to 100 millimeter range as well. You know, anywhere from that 2 inches to 4.5 inches. For my Eastern Caribbean viewers into Eastern Bahamas, what is going on out here for rainfall amounts as we get into Saturday and Sunday? So, yeah, it's the weekend we really start to see things really get wet here. These tropical waves are going to really intensify. And look at this. You can see where the pattern is. Trinidad, Tobago, all the way up to the Virgin Islands here. That is where you could see 70 to 100 millimeters easily up towards the 2.5 to 4 inch range. Here into the southeastern Bahamas near the Turks and Caicos, a little bit lighter, 40 to as much as 60 millimeters. That'll get you about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, close to an inch. And I don't want to leave Puerto Rico out here. You're averaging right around 60 to 70 millimeters. That'll get you up towards 1.5 inches, close to 2 inches. So over the Eastern Pacific here, we have Tropical Storm Hone here. So yeah, this system is going to be a potential problem for Hawaii. Let's zoom out here. There's the coast of California and Mexico. So we'll zoom in here. The European model showing this system just to the south here towards the 24th. It does have it going up towards a maximum tropical storm, so it may go borderline Category 1 hurricane. You can see the 24th at 11 p.m. here. The Big Island of Hawaii getting some moisture from this, the outer feeder bands. this is going to be a problem. Watch out for mudslides and some gusty winds. The good news is it looks like the European model's taking the core of the strongest winds just to the south here. So this is the 26th at 5 a.m. It shows it's slowing down and slowly weakening. Now, there's another storm behind this. This is Hurricane Gilma. Let's just back this up just a hair. We'll go back to the beginning. There it is, moving towards the north, and thankfully that system looks like it's going to go to the north. Now, there's another system here. Here it is. Comes out of this red area of development, and this could actually impact the Hawaiian Islands as a very weak storm around the 1st of September. All right, so turning to the Western Pacific here, we have Tropical Storm Shanshan here, Shanshan. So this storm is going to be a problem for Japan, and this is likely to strengthen into a typhoon here, the European model here on the 24th into the 25th. This storm is going to become much stronger, 120. Yeah, this could be a major problem as it heads towards southern Japan. Prefectures here from Ehime all the way over here towards Wakayama and these areas just south of Osaka. Please stay tuned. This is anybody's game at this point, but watch what the European model does here. Here's the 25th, 26th. European model bends it a little bit further to the west than guidance here, and then brings it up along a stalled out frontal boundary to the west here, and brings it in just east of Ehime here, and then up towards, looks like pointing towards Osaka. So watch out. If this does develop into a major typhoon, we could be looking at a lot of damage here for Japan. So that is not good news here. And then as we head in time here, that system heading up towards Russia, eastern Russia. And then as we continue here, the Philippines just getting inundated with tremendous amount of rain, monsoon rains. And look at here, the intertropical convergence zone looking pretty active. But at this point, no major storms behind our tropical storm that becomes potentially likely a typhoon for Japan. All right, so your future radar here, the deal is most to the east here is clear with the exception for eastern Maine, New Brunswick here, and Florida, of course. Now, what's going on up here into Maine before I get to Florida? Not a whole lot. We have what's left of that upper low that's moving out, and eventually that will be history. Great news. Now, let's turn our attention to Florida because this is my concerning spot. And I know many of you posted on the last video, especially that live in Florida, you are highly saturated. And look at this. As we head throughout the night, of course, you get the daytime heating. It dies down. But then look at here it is by noon. And then the afternoon is when you start to get, afternoon, early evening. This is by 6 p.m., you start to get all these big gully washers just bubbling up, and you just can't take too much more of this here in Florida. Unfortunately, I will be getting into those rainfall amounts momentarily, but there it is. The night is the only time you get to dry out here, because as we get towards the 24th here, as we get into Saturday, here by 2 p.m., you'll already start to see evidence of some development of stronger cells here that will be pivoting and filling in across the entire Florida peninsula pretty much every day. So taking a look at your European rain, that's the wrong one. Let's go over to, here we go. This is a lot better. So there we go, much higher resolution. We're continuing to cruise through. Let's just take it through the weekend first. Yeah, most of the east is dry. You guessed it, Florida. That is the bullseye. We might actually get some rain over here towards Houston and southwestward here towards Corpus Christi. So that's something to really watch out as well. As we head through next week, unfortunately, there's just more rain. And look at it includes, it's going to be really close, but Gulf Coast areas, Outer Banks, it's going to be so close for you. Most of it stays offshore, thankfully. But look at here for Florida, 2.5 to as much as 5 inches of rain. And then look at this. We get a system that heads across the northern tier of the country. That is right around Friday. Yeah, you would guess it. Look at Labor Day weekend here. It's still time for it to change, but you would guess it. A long weekend, and look what you get here in the Northeast. All right, so let's take a look at picking up where your future radar left off as we head through the 24th into the 25th here. You can see The main story is going to be our tropical moisture from the northern Gulf and off the southeast coast. It runs, unfortunately, right through Florida. As many of you told me, Florida cannot take any more rain. As we head into the 26th, we got a little system up here into parts of the Ohio Valley, into parts of the Northeast. So that's the good news. You're going to eke out a pretty nice weekend here. I shouldn't circle that far south here. Probably more like this. But after the weekend, into next week, we will have a few showers and thunder showers across the Ohio Valley into parts of the Northeast. Most of it will be light, though. And you can see this high-pressure system really dominates the east here. There's one big cell up here into eastern Canada as well. But Florida, unfortunately, Texas, you do need the rain. So, yeah, that's going to be bubbling up here into eastern Texas. Now, as we head through the 28th into the 29th, you do start to see the pattern break down as high pressure becomes a big old Bermuda high out here. This return flow, you're going to get this hazy, hot, and humid. And look at this. Shower and thunderstorm activity is going to be on the increase. So that's something we're going to have to watch out for into the 30th and to the 31st. You can see that frontal boundary kind of stalls here as it can't really head that much further to the east. This would be a very bad time for a tropical system to try to move up because this front is moving so slow. It would allow it to bring it up, into landfalling land here. And then as we head into September 1st here, you can see this cold front exiting right off the U.S. coast, finally moving to the east, but it's getting hung up here across the Gulf of Mexico. All right, so taking a look at your Canadian weather outlook here, it's actually looking very much like high pressure here. I'm not going to lie. You definitely need the rain up here in Canada. Well, you're finally going to start to get some here around the 24th. We got a big area of low pressure moving across to Alberta and Saskatchewan here. That's going to bring some shower and thunderstorm activity. Unfortunately, most of that's going to pivot to the north here as we head into the 25th. Maybe some here in southern Manitoba, shower and thunderstorm activity. Eastern Canada is just really clearing out and just it's not till the 27th into the 28th. We have a light front move through here, Quebec and New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island here, and eventually the Canadian Maritimes. But our next system moving across Manitoba here in Western Ontario, the 28th into the 29th. This is the signal I've been looking for here. The central plains of Canada, the provinces, will start to get very stormy. Look at this. We could be looking at a massive low-pressure system bombing out here, bringing some very beneficial rain, and there it starts to occlude into the 30th and to the 31st as it starts to move into the direction of this front in the United States here. So it kind of cuts off, and we see this broad area of low pressure with lots of storminess and rain heading east to Quebec and eventually New Brunswick here as we head into the 1st of September. So for Canadian weather here, precipitation amounts, I know some of you posted the last video. Why do you post it in millimeters? Because Canada's in the metric system, and the modeling here for these international countries is metric. United States is the only one behind that hasn't changed from SI to metric. But as I said before, I always convert it to you here in voice. So here we go. Look at this for our Canadian viewers. Monday through Tuesday. Yeah, Eastern Canada stays mostly dry until next week, but look at here, the central provinces. You got that big storm that's going to be combining with a storm across the north-central United States here, and that is going to promote up to 60 to 120 millimeters of rain. That's going to get you up towards 2 to as much as 5 inches of rain. And then here in Quebec and New Brunswick, and these areas, you could be, southern Ontario, anywhere from about 40 to as much as 70 millimeters. That'll net you about 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches. And before we continue, don't go anywhere. I got plenty more weather for you. Take a look at these awesome maps from my affiliate.
I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States And you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code.
All right, let's take a look at your high temperatures. TGIF Friday, Texas is boiling, even some 90s up here in the Dakotas, near the Dakotas and Montana, eastern Montana. Look at up here in the Northeast, you are warming up close to 80 into the Ohio Valley as well. And look at this as we head into Saturday. Yeah, the heat is on. 90s here in southern Ohio. Look at these hundreds bubbling their way up. And even the mid-Atlantic getting into the mid to upper 80s here into Sunday. Yeah, even some mid-80s, a popular number here, and 90s here into parts of Ohio. Westward through the Midwest into Monday. Look at this. Surging those mid-90s all the way up to middle part of Ohio. 90s all the way up to the nation's capital here. 80s throughout much of the Northeast and eastern Great Lakes. And look at into Tuesday. We're just going to continue to stream that warm air to the north here, 90s and upper 80s into your Wednesday of next week. We do start to see evidence with some of that moisture that things will be cooling down just slightly, but still pretty warm. 88 all the way to Pittsburgh, 82 there in Cleveland and Rochester. Extended forecast from our hometown viewers, Binghamton, Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley of New York and Pennsylvania. Look at this as we head through Friday into Saturday. Mostly sunny skies as well into Sunday. Sunday, there might be a chance of a shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon, but it's so low, it's almost minuscule. We rise through the 80s, and then look at that Monday, Tuesday, and next week. We get a few chances of scattered showers, but mostly that'll be less than 30%, right around 20%. And then through the middle of next week, very temperate, nice summer-like weather. Enjoy. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.